So, when you think of ancient Jericho, you probably picture these ancient, crumbling walls, layers and layers of history. But today, we're going to look at it through a totally different lens, as an incredible marvel of early engineering. We're going to dive into the simple yet absolutely revolutionary tech that let one of the world's very first cities even exist. Okay, so let's just get right to the heart of it. The big question for Jericho's first builders was, well, this. How in the world do you take the most basic material you have, literally mud, and turn it into a permanent, stable city? It sounds almost impossible, but the solution they came up with was pure genius. You see, it's one thing to just shape mud into blocks and let them dry in the sun, but it's a whole other ballgame to stack them high, keep them perfectly straight, and, maybe most importantly, make sure they don't just melt away in the first big rainstorm. You are literally fighting gravity, water, and time, all with a material that wants to turn back into dirt. All right, so let's break down that challenge a little more. Because building with mud bricks presents this really unique set of problems that demanded a super clever solution. Well, as Jericho started to grow from just a small camp into a real permanent settlement, the stakes got way higher. Rain could literally dissolve your house, and as more people crammed in, you needed to build higher, stronger walls right next to your neighbor. Plus, let's be real, these early buildings weren't meant to last forever. They were in a constant cycle of falling apart and being repaired. The bottom line is, just stacking mud bricks on top of each other was never going to work. So the answer was an innovation that completely changed the game. But they didn't find some new, magical material. No, they reinvented the one they already had. They literally engineered mud itself into a kind of ancient superglue. Now, we've got to clear up a huge misconception right here. When we hear the word mortar, our brains immediately jump to modern cement, that rock-hard stuff holding our skyscrapers together. But Neolithic mortar? Totally different beast. It wasn't some powerful chemical binder. It was a carefully made, mud-based filler. Its job was to add stability and grip, not to create some unbreakable stone-like bond. So the absolute best way to think about it is right here. An engineered mud, glue, and sealant. That description is just perfect. It's not just wet dirt. It's a material designed with a purpose, to join bricks together and seal up all the gaps. And this was basically early materials science in action. The recipe was all about finding the right balance. You had your clay or silt, which gives it that essential stickiness, the glue factor. But if you use too much clay, it cracks when it dries. So they added sand or ash to prevent that. Then they threw in chopped plants like straw, which acted like ancient rebar, giving it strength. And of course, water to make the whole concoction workable. Getting this mix just right was a real skill. Okay, so you've got this awesome mud glue. How did that change everything? Well, it fundamentally altered the physics of what a wall could be and what was even possible to build. First off, it let builders level each row of bricks. I mean, just imagine trying to build a straight wall with lumpy, uneven bricks. It's a nightmare. Mortar fills in those little gaps, giving you a flat, stable surface for the next layer. This was a huge deal at the corners, which are always the weakest points. Mortar basically locked them together. On top of that, it sealed the building from wind and rain, and, maybe surprisingly, it made repairs way, way easier. And this brilliant little invention didn't just create better walls, it led to entirely new kinds of buildings. You can actually see this transformation happen right there in the archaeological record of Jericho. It's amazing. You can literally see this change in the ground. In the earlier period, what archaeologists call Pre-Pottery Neolithic A, people lived in these small, circular huts. But as mortar tech got better, you move into the next phase, the PPNB, and boom, the architecture just leaps forward. Buildings become rectilinear, with straight walls and right angles. The bricks themselves even get an upgrade with thumbprints or patterns pressed into them, something called keying, specifically to help the mortar get a better grip. How smart is that? So why is going from round huts to square houses such a big deal? Well, because rectangles are just so much more efficient for living in a community. You can plan out rooms, create dedicated storage spaces for grain or tools, and you can organize houses into neat, orderly neighborhoods. This shift in architecture, all made possible by better mortar, is a direct reflection of a society becoming more complex and more organized. This all sounds fantastic, right? But how do we actually know this is what happened? I mean, archaeologists aren't just guessing. They're like detectives, following a trail of very specific clues that were left behind in the dirt thousands of years ago. For starters, the proof is right there in the official site reports. I mean, the major summaries of the Jericho excavations explicitly say the earliest houses were built with bricks that were plastered together with a mud mortar. It's not a theory, it's a direct observation. And then there's the physical proof you can actually touch. Archaeologists have found the bricks themselves, some with those cool herringbone patterns or thumbprints just designed to grab onto the mortar. They find plastered floors and walls everywhere, which shows this whole system of sealing and finishing a house. And if you put this stuff between the bricks under a microscope, you find the recipe: sand, ash, and tiny little plant fibers, all mixed into the clay. The evidence is all there. So when you put this all together, you start to realize that this isn't just a story about ancient building techniques. This one, seemingly simple innovation, this mud glue, had huge consequences for the very foundation of civilization as we know it. Just think about the ripple effect. If your house lasts longer, you spend less time rebuilding it and more time farming or developing new crafts. If your house has clean, plastered interiors, that probably means better health for you and your family. And stronger walls? That allows for the kind of dense, organized living that actually defines a town or a city. This tech helped turn a bunch of simple shelters into a real, lasting community. And that really is the heart of it. It wasn't one giant, flashy invention that changed the world. It was a series of small, practical solutions. A better way to stick mud together quite literally helped lay the groundwork for what we now call civilization. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? We always celebrate the big ones, like the wheel or writing, but what other seemingly boring inventions like mud mortar have been quietly shaping human history all along? What's the next humble innovation we should be looking for?